The 10th power, Radiance. The questions that come up for the 10th power and the questions that I am asking are, what am I turning my attention to? What consumes me? What am I consuming? Because what happens is I absorb and become what I'm consuming and what consumes me, and then that's what I wind up radiating. That's what this is all about. And the end of my story and the end of this story is that I have learned over and over and over that I'm turning my attention to love, to love. Of course, it has to be operationalized, but that love is my way. But now what I want to do is I want to fill you in on part of the backstory of that. So it's more of my story, because I'm learning my story as I'm going along, and I'm feeling just the pieces and elements of my story. And this is what I want everybody else to do, all of you to do, is to feel the pieces and elements of your story and how they come together to create whatever it is that is radiating out from you, and to be really clear about it. So this is a backstory. It's really a lifelong story. And a big part of my story is that I have been called to, quote, this is, you have to bear with me on this, or grain of salt. I have been called to end the war. Okay, so, and remembering really early on, today I was remembering really early on when I was in 3rd grade, I love to read, I learned to read really early and taught myself how to read, whatever, I know a lot of you love to read. Anyway, so I loved to read, and I was always reading what was sitting around the house. So in 3rd grade, we had to read, we had to give an oral report, a talk in front of the class, and it was the first time that we had been called to give an oral report, and the oral report was supposed to be on current events, right? So what's sitting at my house was a Time magazine, and what the article was about was Vietnam. So it was 1962. Vietnam was coming onto the scene. We weren't at war with Vietnam, but it was whoosh, it was right in front of us. And I read this in Time magazine, and I'd never read Time magazine before. I didn't tell anybody I was doing this, I just pick up the Time magazine, and I'm shocked. I can't even understand all the words, but I get how big this is. So I go to school and I give a report, my current events report about Vietnam and the impending disaster. So that was my very first wake up. And I think, probably thinking back, probably because it was about Vietnam and it was in my consciousness at that age, when you're 8 or 9, things go in a different way. It's like when you see The Incredible Journey when you're 40 years old, or The Lion King when you're 7 or something like that. It goes in a different way. Okay, so now what I've learned, though, so I was horrified by this and horrified by what my elders were doing and things like this, and couldn't even put it in words. But now I know that things aren't straightforward. So what I want to talk about right now is the checkerboard. Because even though I'm saying the conclusion's going to be love, this is not a straightforward path. It's not a clear path. Some of my cousins' sons, for example, have become fighter pilots. One received high honors for serving in Afghanistan and, from the president and the whole deal. And he also received high honors in the family. Big honors in the family. John the fighter pilot. My dad said, I was an MP in Korea, but I didn't have the exciting life of my cousin, James Paul, or, my nephew, John, in Afghanistan, or Dog, Jason's father, who was a fighter pilot, shot down in Vietnam and spent 5.5 years in a POW camp. My life was more boring. I had to join the army, and this is my dad, I had to join the Army. The only reason I joined the Army, though, was because of my eyes. I couldn't pass a test to be a fighter pilot, so I had to go in the Army. So my life wasn't nearly as exciting or romantic. So my own family's a checkerboard. And in the midst of all of that, because I think this is a typical American family, and in the midst of all of that, I have nonetheless, sought change, try to figure out how to do it, and try to move toward this goal that I had of ending the war. Which war? Any war. Doesn't matter which war. No more war. So who am I to even think that war might end? That is the question. And why bother? That is another question that arises. Remember how the black bandanas surged at the Peace March? There we are at the Peace March, and 1,000 guys put on black bandanas and move out. We got 50,000 people and 1,000 move out, and they're going to stir up some mischief. That's their point. That's what they want to do. And then it ends with a black bandana saying, who said a peace march has to be peaceful? So this is, what I want to say about this is, maybe it's a paradox. All expressions surge in the field. More than just two. All expressions surge in the field. We are an electromagnetic field walking through an electromagnetic field. We are primal will. We are spiritual will. We are a force to be reckoned with. And we create the conditions of the field when possible. And we are also subject to the conditions of the field. My friend said, everything is a paradox. If it's not a paradox, I'm not interested. But my other friend said, I can't abide by paradox. If it's going to end up in a paradox, count me out. So what is a paradox? Okay, so we'll start there. Let us imagine that a paradox is a zone of emergence that holds opposing forces within one body. Within one hand, we hold birth and death, hot and cold, wet and dry, health and illness, reception and emission. And the nature of this field may be all the time changing. If we go far enough into heat, everything may explode into a stone cold center. If we go far enough into that stone cold center, we may find a core of surging, ebullient magma. One body, one planet, one star, one universe holds a vast array of processes that build up and tear down, that recombine, that create new codes by which to pass on the state-of-the-art evolutionary process. This is the nature of the tree of life, which is a metaphor for the universe and for ourselves. This tree of life contains the plethora of complementary, supplementary, and contradictory forces and forms by which creation is composed and of which creation is comprised. That thou art. This is the key. We are the tree of life. You are the tree of life. You hold the whole tree of life within yourself. You are the universe creating its own future. This is where we arrive at the power of radiance. We are a universe within a universe. And we live within an enveloping universe, which is full with complementary, supplementary, and contradictory forces and forms. And then living within us, there are numberless universes, each in the process of its own creation and dissolution. The odd miracle is that for a while, we can identify with a composite force and form that goes by a particular name, like Virgo cluster, or local group, or Milky Way, or solar system, or planet Earth, or planet Pamela, or planet Roberta, or planet Donna, or planet Pamela squared, or planet Sue, look, planet Christine, planet Judy, planet Faye. I mean, we can align ourselves with this thing. It's like a planet. It's a universe. And the farther we back away, or the closer we zoom in, the more we start to perceive the existence of force and counterforce. Force and counterforce. Sometimes everything seems to be happening simultaneously. Like, wow, I'm really happy today. No, I'm really depressed. And it's like it's all sitting there at the same time. And sometimes it happens sequentially. Like, I'm really getting tired right now, sitting here. But 5 minutes ago, I felt great. I mean, sequentially, right? So when we back out, when we back away, we seem to be able to see more of it, the whole of existence at once. When we focus in and on, any given aspect begins to come alive and perform for us. If I just suddenly zoom in on the candle, I can see it sparkling and full of life. But a minute ago, I wasn't even looking in that direction. So whatever I look at begins to perform. What happens is all the parts give rise to and sustain one another. And then these parts assist each other in changing that which is called to come into new form. We could say that the parts radiate energy. All the parts are radiating energy. Each part radiates its own particular form of energy, which can change depending on the conditions of the field. A positive force can flip over and become a negative force. Each part radiates with a particular form of energy, which interacts with the forces and forms that surround it. So here's what happens. The field is permeated with an invisible matrix, means, method, or medium that enables the process of transmission of information between the parts. So that which radiates moves into and through the miraculous sea of transmission. So I'm calling the whole thing right now a sea of transmission. And here I use the word miracle twice. And what is a miracle but a wonder we can perceive but cannot explain? As they say in Spanish, mira, look. And it's almost like saying, wake up, mira, mira. And, why can't we explain the miracle? And the reason we can't explain it is because we're seeing from the point of view of one universe, one part. We are seeing from the vantage point of the universe of ourselves, for example, or the universe of our species. If we could back away far enough, if we could get far enough into outer space, let's say, we might be able to better understand how all that is interacting to bring about what we see and experience. But in the areas into which science can't as yet reach, the occurrence of a miracle is often attributed to the divine intervention. And why not? Sounds good to me. It's good to me. I like to think of everything as divine anyway, because to consider something as divine implies respect and reverence. Respect and reverence for the living field, the mysterious field, the miraculous field. And also, it becomes exquisitely clear to me that we do live in a field of miraculous occurrences. Maybe, just maybe, this is where faith comes in. Maybe this is what gives rise to faith in the first place. I'm thinking about dog right now. Dog in my family, a man dog, saying to me, you know, when he was telling me about this woman, the Canadian woman, the Canadian model who went to fight ISIS because she got it. And I say, what does she get, dog? The adventure of combat. And then I say to him, I'm cutting this short, I say to him, dog, you know, I'm more of a peace and love kind of person. And he cuts that short and he says, I know you are, Pamela. Just keep doing what you're doing. Like that. And I'm like, okay, all right. Okay, these are my holidays. This is how I spend my holidays. Okay, so I believe that I must keep doing what I'm doing. I have to keep doing what I'm doing. Because what each being does evolves the garden of the universe every single day. And I know dog matters. I love dog. My daughter matters. My son matters. You know, all of the kids that I've worked with matter. Living or dead, everyone and everything that has ever been matters. Because every being that has ever been, animal, vegetable, and mineral, has contributed to making this universe what it is, exactly as it is. Okay. The Peace March. I'm back on the Peace March. This is the biggest Peace March that ever happened. And it was a few days before the war against Iraq was declared. We marched for peace. We found our voice. We shouted chants. We also took the oath of silence. We listened, we learned, we prayed, and we strove to understand. Yoko Ono rented a huge billboard in downtown San Francisco. It read, "War is over if you want it. Love and peace from John and Yoko." And I was asking myself, and I still am asking myself, what keeps war alive? And will we ever be able to end it? I keep learning over and over and over that the world will be what the world will be. Even as I try to save the world from itself, I keep having to release the outcome of what I think, do, and say. All I can really do is align all the aspects of myself, and all I can really do is end the war within myself. The only way I can end the internal war is through becoming love. That's what I've learned. This is for me. And I know now that unequivocally, love unites what fear divides. And fear, I know, is what propagates the war within. Sometimes I suffer from the fear that I don't have enough, or the fear that I am not enough. Sometimes I suffer from the fear that I'm not being heard. Sometimes I suffer from the fear that I'm being misunderstood. Sometimes I suffer from the fear that life, or my life, holds little meaning. To counter these fears, which can become like wildfires, they can become like the wildfires that blaze into war. To counter those, I have to propagate love through and through. I must attend to love always. I must be and become love. Love must come to reign in each of the 3 trillion cells of my body. This is a practice. Then, standing as love, I am intentionally and conscientiously taking a stand to help steer the course of evolution. Though I won't be at the wheel very long. Still, whatever time I have, in whatever way I can, I need to and intend to chart a course that matters, even if it matters only to me. I'm not the only one, though, who holds this power. Every one of us holds this power if we want it. We have to know about it too. Because a lot of people imagine, I can't, who am I to do anything about it? I can't do anything about it. Okay. Every one of us holds power if we want it. The surging black bandanas have power if they want it. And they discovered on that day that they surged. They felt their own power, by the way. Really felt it. And the people of peace surrounding the surging black bandanas have power too, if they want it. Each of us holds the power. And part of the power I am claiming, is to continue the best I can to help other people discover that they have power and they have a voice. In the end, as in the beginning, we are all one family in one evolving universe. And in the end, now I believe with all my heart that love is the way to conquer fear, and that conquering fear is the way to end the war. In the end, I need to love you, and I want to love you, and in the end, I do love you. I do love you. No matter what. No matter what. No matter what. My war is over, Yoko. I heard you. My war is over, Yoko. I understood you. I heard you, and I heard John too. And I heard from a very deep place in inner and outer space that the key word on that billboard was love. And now I want to end with Radiance out of Visionary Cosmology. And this is page 170 of Visionary Cosmology when we get to Radiance on the very last page, basically. The cosmological power of radiance is the way the universe, or an aspect of the universe, emerges and radiates from and into the pan-original field. The universe shines. Radiance. As we celebrate our centration as originating individuals, communities, and as a species, as we experience and rise into the power of our love, as we begin to imagine and create the conditions that elicit the new, as we work to stabilize that which is important to us, as we learn how to move gracefully through cataclysm and how to dismantle that which no longer serves, as we learn how to participate synergistically as part of the earth and the universal community, as we learn how to deepen in heart, mind, and body in order to participate with the processes of transmutation, as we learn how to create and wield the symbols that preserve, create, and transform, as we learn how to absorb and contain the processes and the products of imagination, we begin to radiate as the newly transformed human imago, the reconstituted individual, community, and species that has been waiting to emerge from our imaginal cells for 400,000 years. And that is the end and the beginning.